Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ryan Does a podcast. Today, we are joined by Ben Wruble. Ben is currently an EMT and is working towards becoming a firefighter. Ben, how are you today?
I'm good, and you?
Doing well, man. Doing well. You just I see the dog cage back there.
Yeah, he might come in here if you need something from me.
Ben is currently experimenting on two dogs, trying to develop a cure for dog rabies.
Definitely not, but
That's great news right off the bat.
I
Um,
need to. Yeah, no animal experiments here. All right, my hands are clean.
Yeah, man,
No
those
toward.
PETA, you better watch out. PETA gonna come after you.
Ida comes after everybody, bro.
Yeah.
Went after Assassin's Creed.
All right, cool, man. Well, we'll just jump in. So yeah, I'll start with the main question that I wanted to experiment with, and yeah, give a disclaimer. So I like to just let it flow. We don't have I don't like to script things. Just kind of let it flow, let it branch out. So feel free to you know, interrupt me at any point if you have something interesting to add or say. But without further ado, so we talked in the DMs, right? You slid in my DMs. You were like, yo, let me take you out to dinner this Friday night. I was like, man, I got a girlfriend.
I don't know about
But
that.
but all that aside, so then we just agreed to talk about dopamine. So like, okay, we're just gonna talk about dopamine. You made the interesting comment. You're like, people. I made a post about neurodivergent people, and you were like, yo, this is totally valid. Talked about your experience a little bit at Crespi, which we'll get into. We'll kind of get into your personal experience later. But before that, something I've been thinking a lot about that you said is follow the dopamine, right? And this is really interesting to me because in fitness, for example, it's very common to have a plan. Like, okay, for example, Monday chest, Tuesday back, Wednesday legs, and people do well on that plan. And I've found, I've never been diagnosed with ADD or anything like that, but I find personally that sometimes I show up on Monday and like I just want to hit legs. It's not on the plan. And so usually when I end up hitting like I have a great workout, right? I'm following that dopamine. And vice versa. If I'm like, no, gotta stick to the plan, and like, dude, like, it's not always, yeah, I'm sticking to the plan, but and so how this applies to everywhere else in life, right? In business and relationships, whatever, you kind of live in the moment, follow the dopamine. It can go both ways. It can also go back. We need some semblance of structure. So how do you kind of think about all that? Like, talk a little bit about that. So like, follow the dopamine.
So this is like a thing I've heard just in the ADHD community, where we will often pick up like side hobbies or something just because it's interesting us and it's like giving us dopamine essentially.
Mhm.
And then we come out with knowing how to drum, playing guitars, knowing how to build Legos, use work in a workshop. And we have all these different skills we've taught ourselves very quickly because we're just following the dopamine. So, I mean, some people, like as a kid, I went through phases. I wanted to learn to play guitar. I wanted to be a drummer. I
Yeah.
wanted to, I, I did a lot of these things too. I
Yeah.
have the guitar. I learned to play it. I had drum set. I learned to play it. I had I learned to code like for robots at some point. And a lot of these things I just self-taught myself because I was just following the dopamine. So I guess uh in terms of the gym or in terms of life, like I just know that being spontaneous or changing things up tends to make people happier. That's like a known study. Like if you go on a walk every single day, but you don't go the same route every single day, it's going to be like more beneficial to you as a human.
Mhm.
So, if you're going to the gym and you're sticking to a schedule, I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing. That keeps you organized. That keeps make sure you're hitting all of the areas you need to hit. But sometimes just you see a bench press and you just want to hit chest. You want to go for that bench press, and you might just hit a PR that day because you're having a great time rather than chugging through something that you don't really want to do that day.
Yeah. Yeah, man, it's tough. Because it goes both ways. Like some people, there's this thing in fitness called auto regulation, which is basically what it sounds like. So like you have a plan, and then based on what's happening in the moment, you auto regulate that, right? Like in football, Tom Brady, like the play is to throw a slant. and then he calls an audible, right? Auto regulate, and then oh shit, the slant's got okay, he's gonna throw the post, right? So auto regulating. The reason I say it's tricky is because a lot of people like don't make they use that what we just talked about to justify kind of being like lazy and all over the place, and they never make progress. So it's a very fine line. But I definitely say there is something to follow the dopamine. Like I write a to do. I'll sometimes write a to do list the night before. It's like okay, you know, do my taxes, clean my room, whatever. And then I wake up the morning, and for whatever reason, I just have the biggest motivational urge to uh maybe like do like make an Instagram post, right? But that's not on my to-do list. That's for like a few days later. So it's like fuck, what do I do? Do I stick to my plan or do I so yeah, do you ever kind of like grapple with things like that?
Yeah, that's to say the least. So, it's I struggle to do a lot of mundane things, like as an ADHD person. So even though I'm talking to you on my computer, which I built myself, it's a pretty expensive computer. Its cooling unit was dying, and I knew it was dying, and I ordered the new one, and I didn't want to go through the trouble of taking it out and fixing it all up, and I was just struggling with the motivation to do that, and then my computer started like having a stroke essentially because it was too hot because the cooling unit wasn't working, and I kind of just said, "All right, fuck it," and I went and did it that day. So it's just there's something to be said about having the motivation and the accountability to stick to a schedule that keeps you on track. It's one of the number one things I struggle with because, I have X amount of things to do and I have a list. Sometimes you walk over to do that list and you're just like, what did I even come here to do? You're already lost because you saw something on the way and you did that task. So, for example, like if I'm cleaning, like I need to clean my room, I need to clean stuff. I'll get distracted by, let's say, this bookcase that's been dirty for a while, and then suddenly I'm deep cleaning a bookcase instead of just doing like regular cleaning tasks.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I feel that too. And it's really you even mentioned so in terms of like personal experiences, you had mentioned at Crespi, you start out the semester like 4.0 and then by the end of the semester, things is that kind of at play in
So, me in academia was really hard, like just in high school and now learning how to go through college again so I can get my paramedics license. It's so I first started at Cleveland and I transferred to Crespi because I had an IEP and a 504 and that wasn't helping. It was like you have extra time to turn in your homework, you have extra time on tests, and then I would end up not doing any of my homework the entire semester and turn it all in after crunching it all in a week.
mm,
So I went to Crespi where they don't allow you to do that at all for the most part. They
oh,
give you the extra time
interesting.
on tests.
Yeah,
Huh?
yeah, yeah. They do or
And
they don't allow you extra time.
they give you extra time on tests, but the extended time on homework and stuff like that and the other things that it gives you, they don't give you.
Okay.
And I guess the only real important thing for me is like I need to type if I have a essay test. I can't write it, not only because you won't be able to read it, but because it won't be half as good as if I just typed it. But they let me do that. That really wasn't a big deal because we had our own computers versus in public school they don't really do that. Um, but I'd start out the semester, I'd do all of my homework at Crespi, I'd show up every single day, and I'd get burnt out really quick because it was just a whole bunch of, I guess, monotonous stuff. So even though I was there and I was present and I was doing good, I'd get burnt out in like the first month or two, and then I'd stop doing my homework, I'd stop showing up, I'd struggle, and I'd fall behind, and I'd struggle with the pressure of trying to catch back up.
Mm,
And then you'd send me to winter school, which is like, or uh, the in between school to remediate that stuff, and I do amazing.
Mm.
So I think like I failed English, I swear, every single semester, like without question. And then I'd go and remediate it with Griffith, younger Griffith. And at some point, it was like it was the year I transferred, and he had me reading Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which is Blade Runner, which is the thing he was giving the seniors
Mm.
for the remedial class. And I love that book. It's my favorite book now.
Mm.
But it
Why is
was
it, why is your favorite? What do you like about it?
I mean, it's really, I guess I'd never watched Blade Runner before I read the book. I read the book. Harrison Ford was my favorite actor and has been for a while. And watched the movie. And I think it's really interesting way to explore what makes humans human. Because if you make a synthetic human that in all forms of reality is human, except for they were made by other humans, not biologically, it kind of pushes the idea of what makes a human human.
Mm.
That's why the original name of the book is Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? Because the main character, who Harrison Ford plays, keeps dreaming of owning an electric sheep as a pet.
Mm.
And his job is to find androids that have ran away and then prove if they're an android or not.
I'm sorry, is the Harrison Ford's character, are they human or android?
He's a human, yeah.
Human,
So
okay.
he's a Blade Runner, which means he finds androids that have ran away or snuck into the human populace. He has to test them, and there's a long series of tests to tell if they're android or human. And
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of cases, they don't know whether they're android or human.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually meets the newest form of android where the tests don't work.
Mm-hmm.
She's in every single way human, but she's not. And
Mm.
she doesn't even know she's an android.
Mm.
So it's just an interesting perspective as to what makes humans human.
Mm. What do you think makes a human a human?
I mean, the easiest answer is emotions, but that's given the way the book puts it, that's not an answer because the androids have emotions too. So it's kind of it starts getting blurred in that type of reality where androids are human in every single way.
Mm. Shit.
So they are physically human, they are mentally human, they are, you know, emotionally human, but they were synthetically made. And
Mm.
it's interesting to think that I mean at that point I don't even know that I could say that they weren't human. I wouldn't really be upset with it personally. I feel like in all senses of the word they're human.
Are you an android?
I could be duping you right now. You
Yeah,
never know.
you're just fucking with us all, man. You're just
That's
well, you're just under the table flipping us the bird.
I I think it's funny that people always confuse the term android with like cyborg and
Mm.
uh whatchamacallit or like robots.
Mm.
What but
AI.
androids are supposed to be as human as possible. They're flesh and blood.
Hmm.
So, you know Dragon Ball?
No.
There's two characters in Dragon Ball, Android 18 and Android 17, and
Uh-huh.
they're completely human, like reproduces and has a kid with one of the characters human,
Uh-huh.
but they're robots. They're
Uh-huh.
androids. So it's that's like the best example I have for people when they don't understand that an android is supposed to be fully human.
Huh, uh-huh.
So
Oh,
it's
okay. And then, so what do you think about the progress in AI that we're seeing recently? We got Chat GPT, we got just AI in general. It's like shit's gonna take over the world. Talk about the singularity predicted for 2045. Uh, some people are very positive about it. Other people, general consensus is basically like the shit's gonna take over at some point. You know, how do you kind of think about that?
I think, I mean, as somebody who really enjoys programming and the meta science behind it, it's really cool. That being said, it can be very scary to think about. There's not really a Skynet type thing because, even if you make an AI that ends up being smart enough to be unshackled, it's not really going to talk to your printer and your computer and say, Autobots transform and take out the humans. So there's not really like a AI controlled weapon I can think of besides like drones in America. And even those aren't AI controlled, they're human piloted with computers on board. I guess the an AI could be smart enough to take it over, but I would be wary of them. I think that people need to, or programmers in general, need to be very careful with their verbiage in the coding so that there's not an unshackled AI. That being said, with quantum processors coming, I don't know if you know what that is.
Mm,
So it's hard to explain. Basically, your regular processor can do, let's say, 1,000 bits of processing per second.
mhm,
A quantum one can do, let's say, 1 million or 1 billion.
mhm,
So it's on par, if not faster, than the human brain in terms of computing.
mhm,
So that's putting an AI on one of those processors, I would consider quite scary.
mhm. Okay.
So
Yeah, you said, I'm sorry, you said 200 times faster than a human brain?
I'd have to look it up. It could
Oh,
be faster. I don't remember off the top of my head, but
yeah,
they're not fully developed and they're not fully functional yet, but quantum processors are possible and being made.
yeah. Shit. That yeah, it's, speaking with a mentor of mine, basically he's like, hey, like asking, the humans of like the AI humans like 300, 500, 1,000 years from now, give or take, what our society is going to be like, would it be equivalent to a squirrel asking humans how our society is and how it works?
It is equivalent.
Yeah, meaning like what a squirrel is to us right now is what we will be to the future of AI.
I could see that being true just because of how far you can see that with a quantum processor, they'll be ahead of our computing power and we're the smartest thing on the planet. So if they end up getting that smart, we would essentially, in our current state, be like squirrels to them.
Crazy to think about. Yeah, I mean, I don't. Yeah, just the freaking nuance that a computer can hold that a human brain cannot hold. Um, the amount of data, our data is exponentially increasing in the last five. Like, there's so much fucking more data than there was even just 5 years ago. Like, shit. Um, what are we gonna do with all this data, right?
Data is useful for a lot of things, but if we can't make use of it, it's kind of pointless. A computer that's that smart could easily make use of all that data. We can't on our own without, and that's the other thing. As humans, in order to process data like that, we make a program for a computer to process all the data.
Yeah.
So we can't even process the raw data at the moment the way a computer can.
Shit. Um, This is such an interesting arc in our evolution, right? Because kind of evolution seems to be exponentially speeding up, right? Like it took us like a million years to go from like a single-celled organism to multi-celled organism. And then it took us like a little bit shorter to go turn into fish. And then it took us like, fish we get onto land, and then freaking in a blink of an eye, like we went from like primates to like living in society civilization now. And seemingly we're kind of like so basically planets. Um, right, we have like an exponential. Jeez, I have like 10 books here. Right. Um, exponential growth, right? So like
Yeah,
a lot
and
of people are, yeah, go ahead.
it's exponential. So we start slow, 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 and then we just skyrocket straight
Yeah.
up, essentially.
Yeah, a lot of so a lot of people are saying that right now we're like somewhere like right right there.
Yeah, I would agree, but what I think is weird for us as the people who are right there, like obviously our technology is evolving, our uh and the way we use it is evolving. I think it's weird to look at another perspective of it, which is the like social aspects of how that is changing all of us on a day-to-day basis.
Hmm. How
Because
so?
I see, I was gonna say I feel like a lot of people might say we're devolving in some cases. Like there's a lot of people that are addicted to, I don't know, let's say playing in a VR headset permanently. Or there's people that there's a lot more vices with all of this technology available to us.
Right.
So like one of my favorite games that I play and I've played in universes is Cyberpunk 2077,
Uh-huh.
where you kind of go into the future where they have chips in your head, they can give you like they can give they can literally give you a program that you'll run in your head on a chip to teach you skills and stuff like that. And it's like a dystopian place where the elites are super elite and the lows are super low
Hmm.
and there's very little in between.
Hmm.
But it's weird to see, I guess. We can picture the future very well and we can picture the past extremely well, but
Wait,
it's weird to be in the present and see
what
us getting there.
what's the name of the game?
Cyberpunk 2077.
Cyberpunk 2077. Is that the game where there's one game? I don't know how familiar you are with Ayn Rand's philosophy of objectivism, but
Not.
basically no, yes, basically the to sum it up in one sentence is like basically be selfish. So like being selfish is like the highest value and altruism is evil, like rational self-interest. But anyways, so it's critiqued, right? So they used a game and they ran a simulation of like, okay, what would the world look like if everyone ran Ayn Rand's simulation where you're selfish? And like the first 3 months it was great. Like economic growth was good, capitalism booming, right? Rational self-interest. But then after 3 months, it fucking crashed. Like after like by the 6 month mark, it's like the society collapsed. Like people were killing each other. Half the society was drug addicted. The men were beating each other to death. Like the women were all prostitutes. And it's like crime wasn't all. It was like this is what would happen in society if we all adopted this objectivism philosophy. Um, so I'm wondering if it was the same game that they.
Could be. Uh, I don't. It wasn't like a multiplayer game where they had people being selfish, where they were running a simulation like that. It could be what you're describing sounds like the game's universe that you play as a single player, which is everyone is out for only looking out for themselves and they don't trust anyone. And society, everyone is using drugs. And they're committing crimes like crazy because that's the only way to get by.
Hmm,
Is to steal from the rich because everyone who's poor is already poor.
hmm,
And the rich are so rich that their only goal is to make sure that they stay rich and
hmm,
protect their assets. So I I could be the same thing. I don't know. This game has Keanu Reeves in it. I don't know if you remember that meme
hmm.
because there was like a meme where the game was announced and Keanu Reeves like picks you up and says, "Let's go," and then he's actually in the game. So I
Oh yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
It's made by CD Projekt Red, who also made The Witcher.
Oh, cool. Cool. Um, how should so this is a question I've been asking a lot of people recently. How should we live and why should we live that way?
I mean, I struggle with this question for myself, let alone giving somebody else the answer. I, for the longest time, kind of felt lost, like I didn't know what I wanted to do and I didn't know what was fulfilling to me. I just knew that what I was doing wasn't fitting and it was miserable. I realized that I really enjoy helping people. I have, I think, over 3,000 hours of community service and climbing.
Nice.
I, this is kind of why I decided I wanted to be a firefighter paramedic. And that's just because I know that as a human, I gain happiness and fulfillment from helping others and like camaraderie between brothers or friends. So, I guess the firefighters seemed like the perfect place to do both. So I don't know that there is some advanced therapy, I guess, that went into figuring out what makes me fulfilled. And it's not super complicated because you kind of think about what do you like doing? You like cooking? Okay, so why? Because this is how I got there. Why do you like cooking? And I was like, I guess I like putting effort into things and seeing it make other people happy and seeing other people enjoy it.
Yeah.
I also like, when I have a co-chef and we're working together to make a meal that people will enjoy, including myself. So, and then they were like, so it seems like you gain fulfillment from working with others towards a common goal, and you also are gain fulfillment from not necessarily helping people as a stretch, but bringing joy to others or bringing doesn't necessarily need to be joy, but essentially helping people in one way or another, whether it's, being the firefighter paramedic that shows up on the worst day of that person's life to help their loved one or their belongings, or to being the chef that makes a delicious meal that puts a smile on the critic's face from Ratatouille, if you remember that. I used to quote like when he eats it and then he like gets the flashback to his mother making Ratatouille. I was like,
Yeah.
that's what I picture when I make something good that people really enjoy.
Hmm.
So it's just stuff like that really fulfills me. It's not going to be the same for everyone. Like I feel like you really like the gym. I've been keeping up with been following what's his name? Casey St. John's, and
Mhm.
he and watching his like growth and his journey. He really likes pushing himself further and further. Kind of, I feel like you do too, to see how far you can go as someone in the gym and what you can accomplish. And I think that must be fulfilling for you both. That otherwise, I don't know why you would do it. So personal growth is something that you might find fulfilling, and others, because there's a whole gym world out there of people doing the exact same thing. So I just feel so I guess pushing yourself to grow doesn't just have to be muscles. It can be your brain. It can be in a video game you enjoy, for example. It could be in your personal life. There's always things you can learn from that help you grow and adapt and become a better person. And that's kind of how I live my life because I come from a place where I was quite literally dysfunctional. I did not function as a regular human. So I have to, day by day look at how did this day go? Where did I succeed? Where did I fall short? Tomorrow, what can I do better?
It's really cool. It sounds like you're really reminiscent of the growth mindset. The growth mindset essentially says hey, like you either win or you learn.
Yeah, it's very
And
reminiscent. In
you know,
fact, it is it. I learned that a while ago. The first time I learned it, it went right over my head though. I I was in that place, like that Crespi, the place I was in when I was at Crespi, where I was just lost and I didn't know what I want and I was miserable. I learned about the growth mindset and I learned a bunch of other really cool things and it just went right past me. I had to, I guess, gain an appreciation, like a deeper appreciation for the world we live in, the people around us before I kind of decided that I wanted to contribute in a way and I needed to push myself to be better. And that's when I was like, all right, growth mindset. What can I learn from my mistakes?
yeah, yeah, 100%. And yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I've seen Casey a couple times. Yeah, he's having fun. I love that he's sharing his journey. I know whether he knows it or not, he's motivating, a lot of people to, get in the gym and all that. Always positive energy, very energetic. Um, yeah, man, that's speaking of that, how's your kind of fitness journey? I know you hit me up a few months ago, kind of asking for some, a little programming here and there. Have you been being consistent? How's that been?
So I hit you up in like I think before or the middle of my EMT class, and that was like an 800-hour class,
Mm,
and it was rough. So I had to prioritize the class. I passed the class, but and I learned a lot about how I learn. So I think going forwards when I'm taking classes, I'm probably gonna have that on lock in terms of how I learn in as a neurodivergent and what works for me so that I can, make sure I go to the gym as well as get the class done and ideally continue working. So my thing with the gym is as I don't even know if it's an ADHD thing. The hardest part for me is just getting there. If I take the initiative to go to the gym, like drive there, and I'm at the gym, I have a great workout. I have a great time. The hardest part is literally just getting there. So, oftentimes the thing I find best, and this is something I know is ADHD thing, is if I have a friend that wants to go to the gym and I say, yeah, I'll meet you there, I feel like that social pressure to meet them there. I get there, we have a great time. It's called body doubling. It's a thing that ADHD people do to study. So if I'm studying in a coffee shop where I can't be distracted or it can't be ADHD, or like, snap, tap my foot or something, I suddenly just lock in and get things done because I have a bunch of people around me being quiet and getting things done. So I try and use that for the gym a lot. So when my friends are going, I'll meet them.
Yeah, yeah, man, it's really cool you bring that up because I work personal training at LA Fitness in Tarzana, and I can't tell you, I have like some clients where they come and they pay the whole thing, and like after a few sessions, I'm like, why did you sign up for training? Like you clearly know what you're doing, like you're in here, and they're like, oh, no, 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 you don't understand. I won't show up if it's not, and I'm like, all right, like and it's cool because yeah, they really do. Some people like their priority, we all have different priority, right? Some people are really into the business, they have businesses, the life is chaotic. They will not fucking show up to the gym unless they have it scheduled. Ryan does some Monday 5 p.m. if it's not on, because they don't want to like be a douchebag and schedule and not show up. There's money involved too. There's neuroscience, psychology suggesting the more you pay, the more you pay attention, right? Um, and so yeah, it's really cool. I use it with my girlfriend too to do like if I really fucking need to do something, I'll just be like, hey, like this is what I need to do. If I do not do it by the end of the day, you need to discipline me or like do you need to like we can't see each other this weekend or something. It's like okay, and then um but
It
yeah.
adds a layer of accountability that nobody else will have. That's that's why I think a lot of people do it. Because if you pay for an appointment, that's the time you have to be there. So something I've noticed I guess this is also with ADHD. When I have a job that gives me a schedule, like it's a fixed schedule, my life sort of folds around it and it's becomes much less chaotic.
Mhm.
So I'll be up on time to do all the things I need to do, go to work, come home, get all the stuff done. When I don't have a schedule like that, either for work or for class, spiraling.
Mm.
I will be up at 5 a.m. doing God knows what, doing laundry sometimes at 5 a.m. because I gotta get the things done, but I just keep doing other things and I have no commitments, so I have nowhere to be held accountable to,
Yeah.
no time to be held accountable to.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, that's we got one. I'm actually one of the ideas I was thinking about is starting an accountability group on Facebook for just shit like that, just like basic shit, like hey guys, I need to log in, like I need to do the laundry by the end of today, and then you have social pressure from like 13, 30 different people, like "Yeah, just fucking do the laundry," I don't know. I'm still experimenting with it. I don't know, exactly the ethics behind it and how well it'll work, but something I've been thinking about.
A lot of those things work as long as everyone you put in them is all in on them. Like if you have accountability thing and all of those people are willing to hold you accountable, but also want to be held accountable, they're all putting that energy in, it'll work for all of you.
Mm.
As long as you guys are like, I don't know, because it's very easy to just put your phone on silent and ignore it. But if all of you are engaged in that conversation, in that program, it's going to work.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. Um,
Not even all of you, but enough of you.
yeah,
And the more engaged you are, the more accountable you'll be held by everyone in there.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, you can't have it. If there's like 100 people in there and only 10 are engaged, five, like it's not really gonna, you know. And it requires vulnerability too. You have to be like, shoot, I see we're almost out of time, but yeah, you got to be vulnerable. Basically, put yourself out there, and then that'll encourage other people to do the same. But yeah, what's your final message to the world, Ben? You got 30 seconds left. 30 seconds to tell the whole world because 13 million people are going to watch this video.
13 million people are going to watch this
Mm.
video. My final message, follow the dopamine. Do what fulfills you. Get shit done with a smile. There
I
you
love
go.
it. I like it. Follow the dopamine. You heard it here, folks. This has been the Ryan Dosa podcast. Thank you for listening.